You know, for that Shadowverse next stuff, let's make a shadow effect for Haven, where you can convert that shadow into light, and then you can play a card that consumes all your whatevers, and it just, I don't know where I'm going
Rainy,
with this.
rainy, rainy. This is way too complex for my overflow dragon.
We're just chalkboarding, okay? We're just chalkboarding ideas right now. So it looks like the first matchup is going to be Rune into Haven. And let's see if Les can draw into his curve.
That's what it is. So Envy, talk to me. Maybe you have some more insight about Tempo Haven than I do. Is there anything outside of just getting that nice tempo draw that you can really succeed with Tempo Haven?
I don't have any more experience playing Haven than anybody, actually. I think you actually even were the one that was running the you were playing the Cleric Lancer Aether of the White Wing list, right? Weren't you?
Yeah, I was. The way I play Tempo, again, I've talked about it at length. I am not a fan of amulets in this game. Beast Call Aria is about the only one, as far as as far as Haven's concerned anyway, because I don't like drawing amulets in the late game. I just don't like doing it. I mean, you might have to sacrifice Garuda or something like that, but I think Aether of the White Wing is just a stronger card overall anyway. Ending with Tauruses, putting Cleric Lancers into play, even Tenko, you know what I mean? If you're playing Alanas, if you're a crazy person. Or a really smart person, depending on how you view it. But it's just, I don't know. The amulets to me are just like, they're such a topsy-turvy type of idea in a deck. It's like they're amazing when you have them on curve, and then late in the game when it's your top deck, you can't do anything with it unless it's like, turn 10 and you have a Garuda in your hand or something like that. But if you're on turn 10 with your tempo deck, you're probably behind anyway.
Well, I mean, that's just like the natural. Being behind anyway is kind of like the natural drawback of playing something that does nothing to the board, that tries to count down. Like Tribunal does something to the board, kinda. Tarnished Girl kind of does something to the board, but not really. They don't really impact the board as much as a follower does, because a follower can evolve, can do other impactful things. That's kind of the point of amulets in the first place, because no one's playing Eidolon. We're not playing Eidolon to pop these immediately. It's just not worth it, right?
Right. I mean, you can't play if you use an Evolution Orb on an Eidolon in your tempo deck. I will praise you if you win, especially if you do it on camera, but I would not suggest it.
Right. It's not the best plan. I mean, we already see Les doing kind of what you said might happen to him. He's not exactly drawing the best hand. He's not exactly, been able to play this White Tiger, which is good against Rune, great against Rune, actually. And his hand's kind of weird, like unless he top decks literally March Year's Tea Time next turn, this is looking pretty bad.
Yeah, and the reason that is just because of the quality of cards, right? So the difference is Rune can play cards like Dance of Death because it has ways to cheat it with Wizardess of Oz, right? When you're playing Haven, it's just a solid card that you can play on curve if you want to, or it can push through a blocker if you want to. It's still a solid option. It just doesn't have the same efficiency that Rune does in the mid-game to late game. So you're doing a lot more fair things, whereas Rune is doing a lot more unfair things.
Right, exactly. And I mean, we've used that the terminology on, I don't know if we've used it on cast before, describing a deck as fair, but basically, Dance of Death in Haven is always 5 play points, right? I will always have to pay 5 play points to cast Dance of Death. But in Rune, sometimes I pay 1. That's just, comparatively very unfair, right?
And fair versus unfair doesn't necessarily mean it's bad design or bad flaw or anything like that.
It doesn't mean that it's overpowered or bad or anything. It just means that, compared to what the other faction could be doing right now versus what you have as an option, it's up the disparity in matchup. That's how we get matchups, basically.
Right, exactly. But I would never count Les out. I mean, he has been playing Haven, like I said, week in and week out. He obviously feels very comfortable with it, and he knows how to win with it. I can't put that past him. So I don't think that he's completely dead to rights yet. The only thing in contention with that thought is that Eplicas' hand is really good.
His hand is great, and then also you said a really important word there, I think, with which might explain why Les plays Haven so often, and it was the word comfortable. We talk about this literally, I feel like every hour or so when we're talking about North America, but I mean, comfort picks probably describes America. Like,
right?
They like their pillow picks,
comfort food, comfort picks, big comfy couches, big comfy beds. That's what America does.
Yeah, dude. Change is not good in America, right?
All right, so it looks like Lest is just putting down the hammer, says you have to get past my White Tiger if you want to do anything. And this is right before Master Mage Levi can come out.
And that is a really good play against Rune. Even if Piercing Rune, you know, was playable on the Tiger, it wouldn't be great though. So if Halo Golem, for instance, could shoot that Tiger and then evolve into the bird, right? You could get 4-face with Levi, but you can't do that. So
can't do that. In this scenario, you have to either Evo over the Tiger or just jam your Levi into it.
Which I think is gonna happen. Yeah, you're gonna jam 2 followers into 2 followers, which, you know, lets Haven come back a little bit. That kind of puts them back on the even footing right there.
That's right. West is basically asserted dominance and said, you have to play reactive to me, and it forced Eplicas to do so. And he has the Garuda to pop the amulet here.
Yeah, I mean, gonna take 3. You're leaving up 2 4/4s if you don't evolve the... Yeah, this is just game, right?
Well, there is Master Mage Levi coming out next turn, right?
He doesn't do anything,
Oh,
though.
but that does leave the 2/2. He will have to evolve the Master Mage Levi to stay alive.
He can't stay alive. It leaves 2 4/4s and a 2/2.
Oh, right. Yeah, they all have 4 defense. Never mind.
Master Mage Levi looks terrible against this board.
Yeah, everything that I just said, forget about it. I thought he was able to wipe the board, but he can't even do that. So even without a perfect draw, as we saw, as long as you have ways to pop your amulets on command, which Garuda can do, you still have ways to take over the mid game. And honestly, just simple plays like I call them simple because we see them, but it's not so simple, right? Like, which follower do you evolve? Like, do I evolve my bird last turn or do I not evolve something? Things like that. Very important in a tempo deck to understand when to use your evolution orbs, and Less perfectly knows.
It was a great setup. It made sure that, you know, no matter what Eplicas did that turn, even unless he had literally Oz into Bolt, but Bolt would still leave, if he didn't evolve it, would still leave Dance of Death into 3, or Dance of Death into 1 rat even attacking, and would be lethal also. So, like, there's not really anything you could have done with that board setup.
I think this goes a long way to show Less understanding the matchups because of his inclusion of cards like Menu and White Tiger specifically, and those are very good against Rune, like you were saying. I mean, you can't Piercing Rune, Dance of Death, anything these White Tigers. You have to do something outside the norm for Rune in order to get through these cards. And it just sets up a mid game where you can just push ahead, and Less just, you know, perfectly did it. That was a great game.
It's a pretty bad draw too, but I mean, White Tiger, I think the White Tiger turn honestly shifted that pretty far. The turn where a bird, a 5/6 on the board behind a White Tiger is just so much. It's so hard for Rune to answer that because they do depend on, you know, they do depend on Halo Golem, they depend on Levi, like they depend on Piercing Rune, Dance of Death hitting these followers, and when it can't, it puts them in such a weird spot, you know?
Yep, absolutely. And now we get to see, since that Haven deck just won outright, now it's Dragon vs. Shadow and Dragon vs. Rune, and I'm pretty sure we've seen Dragon win more often than not against either of these decks, let alone having a chance against both.
This is a classic matchup. I feel like I've seen this matchup probably a lot.
Yep, and this is actually way back. This isn't anything crazy. This is just Saha Ramp Dragon. The only modifier to this matchup is both players are running Staircase to Paradise. Just good value cards. Can't get away from them sometimes. What do you think about the Soul Conversion versus Staircase to Paradise and Shadow type of argument? Like, what would you prefer to play?
I think that the 1 extra Shadow from casting Soul Conversion on a follower is probably a moot point if you're not running something like Tyrant, and I think Staircase overall is probably just better. So
yeah, what I've been trying is like a tech type of thing in my Shadow list is choose Staircase. I don't like running 3. I'm weirdy. I don't like running 3 because I don't like drawing them later in the game. I only like having them in my opening hand or as an option in the mid game. And I like running 1 Soul Conversion because you still need that effect, right? Like, it still opens up some of the best plays you have with Thanes or clearing out your own board space or Lurching Corpse, whatever. And it might be right just to keep Soul Conversions in, but I think Staircase is too powerful not to play some copies of, especially in Shadow, because it just does so good at filling up the board and it doesn't really care if you kill its followers.
Right, but I mean, I was going to say that, like, that's awkward in itself, right? Because Staircase takes up a spot that, you know, might banish a skeleton early on from Bone Chimera. It makes it makes Prince Catacombs not as good. But I mean, it does kind of it helps your overall card quality, I think, over the game's course, which I think is better. So.
Yeah, just how late do you expect your games to go? If you think super late, then Staircase is really good. If you don't think super late, Soul Conversion is probably just a straight up better card.
Not to mention, in the mirror, you would just destroy. If you're playing against a mid-range Shadow mirror and they're not playing Staircase and you are, then you win, probably. So.
Probably. You have a lot more chances to get your Ektars and Thanes online, absolutely.
It was an interesting play from Les, choosing to actually, I think, because Sybil didn't do any. No, he could have evolved Sybil into Ceres, and I think it would have been fine. But it wouldn't have. He could have been Soul Squashed, I guess, was the play he was worried about.
Yeah, I think he's actually playing a more tempered plan here, even though I don't know how many turns he can to afford it.
Yeah, he's getting hit pretty hard. Double Sybil's pretty good though.
Okay, yeah, the second Sybil makes this turn way easier. Next turn you can do it again, ramp right up to 10.
This is gonna be great for him when he realizes there wasn't even a Soul Squasher to answer that. I was like,
right.
I was talking about while I was watching the game, and he's not gonna kill Ceres. Wow, he's gonna ignore it. Interesting.
Yeah, cares about the damage more than anything else. Can't hate on that. But of course, Staircase popping, and my goodness, all the options, and another Staircase popping the following turn. I think Eplicas is in a great spot here. I say that until Staircase pops for less and we see like triple Bahamut, but you know, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember that Les is playing a very late game oriented deck that if he can get that last evolve out of Eplicas, Eplicas is going to have like no way to answer anything, so.
It's true. That is true, and another Sybil next turn just means that pretty much any aggression this turn is going to be eaten away as well, because this Sybil has to be traded into, so he'll go back up to 17. Yeah, I think Les is in a just fine spot. This is going to come down to who can use their resources better, and you can already see Eplicas shaking his head even after drawing with Staircase.
There was once a time where I feel like Mid Shadow used to be able to outgrind Dragon, maybe, but that kind of shifted back in Dragon's favor. So.
One of the reasons why I actually thought it shifted back into Dragon's favor was because it has this new crazy combo with Ariad or Erd with, Queen of the Dread Sea and Genesis Dragon. But most of the players are just going way back to the Saha Quill, just like, honest. I say honest, but it ramps. Ramp Dragon, which is like a lot of life gain, a lot of big followers, and things like that. But yeah, it's interesting to watch the progression week to week with specifically Dragon. Shadow, goes up and down a little bit with a few cards, but it relatively stays the same. But Dragon has huge shifts.
Very interesting that Les chose to evolve that when Soul Squasher could be. It's very not impactful at all, and Soul Squasher could come down very easily. But
Especially
yeah, like going back to what you said, double Staircase, right? Going back to what you just said, I think less honest, more predictable. I think Saha lists are far more predictable than the other dragons, because you kind of have to like wonder, like, are they holding this combo? Do I have to play around, X amount of damage? Like, they just evolved the Forte at my face. Is it possible they're holding, Gen Dragon combo or something? So. Right. A lot less predictable in that sense.
Well, less predictable, and it can just win faster, right? Like, I mean, if you're playing the Ariad combo, 18 damage on, turn 6, turn 7 is very realistic. We've seen it on camera. And that's a scary beast to try to beat, especially when you're just trying to play this long, drawn-out value game.
Right, that's a card where Death's Breath comes back into play. Death's Breath popping your own Thanes, getting the ward off that guy. Death's Breath, a card that is usually not that great against Dragon. Like 2-3 wards are not that great. But against that, it's very paramount for sure.
Right. Usually against Dragon, the Death's Breaths are just played as 3 2/2s. You don't even want to use your shadows on them because Grimnir is a possibility, Bahamut's a possibility. All these things that can wipe your board is fill, of course. So you just want them to build up your shadows and present a board that your opponent has to answer just to keep the game flowing.
I think Lest is highly surprised that Eplicas does not seem to have Soul Squasher.
Yeah, this is a feels bad Ektar. I like it. Is he gonna trade or is he gonna face?
Always face. Can't even finish the summon animation, and Soul Squasher drawn immediately for Eplicas.
Oh no.
That is very feels bad, man. Right after he wanted it.
Yep. Okay, and he uses up the shadows on the Death's Breath. I feel like he's going to get slightly punished for this with the Bahamut, but it's still good because at least the Zeus can't hit face now.
You have double breath. Do you bother Bahamuting this?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
I like Bahamuting before board clearing. It's just my style. Because especially, you know, your opponent's at 13. If they actually just can't kill this, or they can't put up a defense, they just lose. So
that is very, very true. You're also playing you know, you have double breath, right? So very easy to get rid of that.
Also overlooked that we didn't even talk about is Dragon has been veering away from Grimnir as well. I still think that's wrong. I don't know why. I don't know why Grimnir is not in the meta anymore, especially in tournament play, because we've seen so many games go to turn 10 plus because people are just trying to grind each other out. Grimnir is one of the best grindy cards in the game, and we just don't see it anymore, or at least not as much as we
I don't know.
used to.
I feel like it matters in these shadow mirrors, but I feel like if you're expecting a lot of Dirt Rune, he doesn't really impact Dirt Rune matchups very much at all. So
it does give you that one extra option of being able to ward on turn 3, though, against like a Magic Illusionist opener or something like that. I don't know. I like the card a lot. Maybe that's just me.
maybe there's a little bit of confirmation bias with you and Grimnir, and you guys should work that out before. Maybe. Double breath is not looking too great after a double bone chimera happens. So
let's see. The unfortunate part is that you can't play the unenhanced version first, because if he could, I think he'd be in fine shape.
Right.
This will still work. Well, no, that still won't work. You know, it will. This is actually a game, I think, right? He gets to pop the Chimera, pop the breath, pop the other breath, and then attack face. Yeah, this works.
Right. Because he does kill. Yeah, he Breathless Element is 1/1/1.
Yep. And Les will take that one very convincingly. Very convincingly.
Les takes the win 2-0, and 2-0 wins are actually pretty important in the round robin. Now, we were talking about Les as a player over the course of this season, and obviously kind of a focus point because he's been prominent in Season 1, prominent in Season 2, right? And in Season 3, having trouble, right? His score line hasn't been the top. He's on the bottom end of the round robin. But it's games like those that really kind of make you think, like,